We are here today with Katherine Klein, Wharton's Vice Dean of Social Impact. Katherine, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
What is social impact?
Well, there's not one definition of social impact. It means different things to different people. But for us at Wharton, and I think for most people these days, it's the idea that businesses have a role to play in the world that goes beyond making a profit. It's also the idea that business knowledge and business strategies may help make a positive difference in the world.
What are your responsibilities as the Vice Dean of the Wharton Social Impact Initiative?
Well, my main responsibility is just helping to create opportunities for students and professors to get involved in social impact work, which really means helping them find interesting opportunities to make a difference in the world, to maybe it's combating hunger, maybe it's bringing financial literacy, helping people understand how to manage their money who don't have a lot of money. Maybe it's bringing peacemaking to different parts of the world. Maybe it's employing kids who don't have a lot of role models from parents and others in their community who are going on into professional careers. So there are lots of different ways in which they could do this, lots of topics that professors are interested in studying to understand how do we make the world a better place. And my role as Vice Dean is helping to create those opportunities so that students and professors can run with it and make positive things happen.
What skills are needed in order to be a successful social entrepreneur?
Great, good question. So I think many of the skills that are needed to be a successful social entrepreneur are very much the same ones that are needed to become a successful entrepreneur. You need to be really tenacious. You're going to be knocked around. It's not going to go well. You need to learn from that experience and keep going. You need to have a creative idea about where is this niche where I can make a difference? Where does the marketplace need me? Where does the world need me that 16 other people and 16 other companies, if not hundreds of other companies, are not already doing? So you need a lot of creativity. You need passion, because the goal with a social enterprise is to make a difference in the world, to serve other people. Often it's also to do so in a financially sustainable way, which means how are you going to make money in the process? How are you going to keep this thing going so you can make a positive difference? So again, creativity, tenacity, sticking to it, passion to make a difference in the world, smarts, connections help. And if you don't have connections, then knowing how to build social relationships so that you can reach out to people and get mentoring, get support, get advice, all of that is important.
What is the intersection between business and social impact?
So the intersection between business and social impact is this evolving, very dynamic space. Lots of people are trying lots of things, and in general, there's a sense of possibility, a sense that business strategies and business knowledge can make a difference for social impact in the world, and it can mean lots of different things. So, for example, ConAgra Foods, that makes a lot of food, they have a foundation that supports work to combat hunger. Nike has realized that, when they make shoes, they use a whole lot of water, and it would be better for the environment and better for their costs if they could innovate in ways that needed to use and waste less water. So those are ideas of big companies that are exploring ways of getting involved in social impact. There are lots of examples of students coming to Wharton and getting either an undergraduate or an MBA degree and going on to start a nonprofit organization or to work in governments around the world to support the kind of work they're doing, or to work in school systems and say, how do we make public schools in the United States better? How do we create really fabulous charter schools in some cases? So it's a huge range of activities. Sometimes it's in mainstream companies, big name companies that people have heard of. Sometimes it's in small startups. Sometimes it's by having MBAs, folks who come from the business schools serve on boards of directors for nonprofit organizations. So it's not one thing, it's many models, but that intersection of social impact and business is this space of a great amount of creativity and optimism right now.
What are some examples of the most interesting social impact initiatives you have seen?
So one of them works at American Express. His name is Alpesh Chokshi, And Alpesh has been very involved in creating this new American Express card, called the Bluebird card. And what's interesting about this is American Express used to be always for the sort of richest, fanciest, like, oh, you really made it when you got an American Express card. The Bluebird card is marketed with Walmart, and it's really for people who are unbanked and who literally have no bank account, and it allows them to get banking services at a really cheap rate, get great services, and start to get help with managing their money in more effective ways. So it's a really interesting example of American Express reaching out to a different clientele to create a product that is good news for American Express. They are making money off of this product, but they're also helping people who otherwise, when they need a loan or when they need to wire money to a family member, are paying just a huge amount of money for those things. So it's an example of social innovation within a very large established firm. A very different example is a second Wharton alum, a guy named Eric Adler. And Eric, with a partner, has created the Seed School, and the Seed School in Washington, D.C., in Baltimore, and they're growing. These schools are public boarding schools. So they are college prep schools for disadvantaged youth. And they're literally boarding schools. Kids come to school on Sunday night or Monday morning. I think it's Sunday night. And they leave on Friday night. And during the week, they're there. And they're getting support. They're getting great food. They're getting great classes, getting great mentoring and coaching. And so these kids are really getting a great education and a really long, extended day, a lot of support around teaching, and the results have been great. These kids are doing really well and going to the kinds of schools and colleges they probably wouldn't be able to go to or maybe even know about if they had just not gone to a school like the Seed School. A third example is another Wharton alum, a man named Dan Scaff, who is very involved with an organization on the West Coast called One Pacific Coast Bank. And this is really, the idea here is that they wanted to create a bank that's for the community and that is really embedded in the community and providing great services on the ground in local networks, in local neighborhoods, to help the poor, to help those who are more disadvantaged and wouldn't get great banking services. So it's really, sometimes we imagine these big banks and they seem really monolithic and big and intimidating. It's not that kind of bank. They also have a really interesting model, which I won't go into. That's kind of a combination of a nonprofit and a bank making money at the same time. And the last example I was going to give you is a woman named Doreen Shanaz, again, graduated from Wharton. She lives in Singapore now. She grew up in Bangladesh. And she has just created a real system to help social entrepreneurs in working in Asia. She and others provide training. They provide what are called kind of angel investing, which means money to get these small organizations off the ground. As they grow, they provide opportunities for more investment and more support, and ultimately a stock market for these kinds of mission-driven organizations. So it's a huge range from people doing things in schools. I could go on and describe more nonprofits, more big companies, more startups, but there are just lots of different examples, which is part of what I love about my job and the social impact work that's going on from Wharton, but all around the world.
How can high school students create social change?
How can high school students create social change? Usually they're going to create social change, and they do create a lot of social change, by discovering their passion and saying, I want to help people who do this, or I think this is a really interesting problem, and I think we can solve it in a new way. And digging into the problem, so doing research to understand a problem and come up with an innovative solution. Starting to talk with others about their ideas. Aren't there things that we could do for kids in this part of the world? Aren't there things that we can do to combat this illness? And slowly, often high school students are essentially creating movements. A passionate band of people who create opportunities, raise awareness, raise funds, and start planning activities. Maybe they're selling things that serve other people. Maybe they are having fundraising events. But it's taking that kind of energy and drive and, again, passion to make a difference and just starting to run with it.
What would be your advice to a high schooler who is interested in becoming a social entrepreneur?
That's a good question. What would be my advice? Well, certainly just do it. Just believe that you can, because high school kids are doing this all the time, and go for it. I would say researching opportunities and problems is a really good idea. So what are other high school kids doing? What can you learn from other people's examples? What do you need to know about a specific problem to really understand it so that you can make a difference in that, in whatever area you want to make a difference? Get help, get mentoring, talk to your friends, and go for it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.